Here we go. Cream. Yeah. Cream. Yeah. Ice cream. Ice cream social. Welcome back to another episode of the Ice Cream Social. We got your host Mondo in the building. We'll explain where we are just in a couple minutes. But before we get started with our special guest today, we got Rory, aka Mr. Free Spirit Superstar.
I'm back. Good to see everybody. Excited to be here.
So, there's a lot to be said about our guest today. So she's an entrepreneur. She is, I guess, first and foremost, she's a wife. She's a mother.
Yes.
She is a booming entrepreneur, as you can see from the aesthetic in the building that we're in. It's going crazy. Rory and I were just talking about this before the camera started rolling as far as the aesthetic. But with that being said, I'll let you introduce yourself, tell us about your business, and then we can go from there.
Cool. I'm Alison Keefer, and I own Gallery Pastry Group. Right now we've got 3 locations. We also have a CBD THC bakery. I've got Gallery Pastry Shop at 46 in College, Gallery on 16th in New Jersey, and then downtown right across from Gainbridge. We've got Gallery Bistro and Bar. So that one's about to get real crazy.
Yeah, so we'll speak to right across the street from Gainbridge in a little bit because, like you said, in 2 weeks,
Yes. Yeah.
it might be the talk of the town.
Had you told me when I signed that lease that was going to happen, I would have told you you're a liar.
Yeah, that was perfect timing. So I think it would be a disservice if we didn't speak to the food that we have here on the table.
Yes.
So, Alison, do you just want to introduce everybody to what we have here? And I just can't stop looking at it.
I would love to. So these are some of not only our favorites, but these are some of the dishes that I've had a pretty big hand in creating. The first one is the Brulee Trillium, and that's this guy right here. So we hand roll all of our croissants in-house. And our pastry team downtown at the bistro, they kill it. They make everything from scratch. It's got honey, mixed berry compote that we make. And then that cheese on there, it's like a brie cheese a little bit, but it's a local creamery called Tulip Tree.
Awesome.
And it's a triple cream cow's milk cheese. And then we put a layer of sugar on there, like a brulee. So when you eat it...
Triple cream Cosmo cheese. Woo! Okay.
It's really
I
good.
feel
Okay.
my mouth
Yeah.
watering.
Yeah, no,
as she's
It's pretty good.
explaining.
Yeah.
And then you got candy pecans in there, too. That dish was actually featured in Food and Wine magazine, which is
Awesome.
kind of cool. I was like, oh, my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm not a chef.
Yeah, this looks amazing. So what do we have here?
Right here is, these are our savory fritters. So it's fried croissant dough, and then it's got a little bit of like an artichoke dip underneath it, and lemon zest, Parmesan, a little bit of black pepper, really tasty. We do a sweet version of those too. And then this guy is one of our crepes. It's called the Breakfast with Tiffany. An employee that we had working here, this was her favorite combination, off-menu thing that she would make.
Okay.
So kind of an homage to her. It's got
That's
a
awesome.
whipped savory. It's like a savory whipped cream on the inside with what's called nettled cheese, another local vendor, Tulip Tree. And then you got a sunny egg on top. And then they just brought over the brunch carbonara. So you can have pasta for breakfast, which people are a fan of.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of...
Which one are you going to eat first?
Yeah. And then you
Yeah,
can follow it with a
there's-
gummy.
There's a lot of options going through my head, right? You have the gummies over here that help with the craving, right? There's the
You know?
thought of going up a waist size in
Yeah.
the pants, right?
We-
there's consequences, right?
We've done some infused dinners, and people will get up in between courses and go up to the pastry case to buy pastries to eat between the courses. So it does,
Yeah.
it works.
So my question immediately is, was that by design to have that?
No, but it was a
Flow of
great
opportunity?
marketing opportunity when we
go.
saw it.
There
I'm
we
not
go.
gonna lie.
So you mentioned having a hand in these dishes, right? And picking the menus, picking the ingredients. Do you do that for all of the items on the menu? Do you have, your hands on all the items? Do you hand pick, where they come from and, what will actually be included in the menu?
Absolutely. I have an excellent chef team and management team, so I'm not going to take credit for all of the beautiful things that you see, but we all sit down, try each other's things, look at and see what is selling. We meet weekly. Things that are coming into season. If we've got a local purveyor that's bringing us something cool, we'll all try it and say, like, that has to be on the menu. You know, it's not, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that we use everything local because that's just not feasible. Cost of goods has gone up almost 30% over the last year and a half. So, but we try to stay true to a lot of our local vendors too.
How often do you add new menu items?
We try to do it seasonally, but a lot of our chefs will do a weekly special so that we can try to give them a little bit of wiggle room and like inspiration too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then when you do those weekly specials, do you, pick a chef for the week? Or is it more so
It's
who presents?
in each house. So like, for example, Michael, who's the chef here, he's doing ramen and wing nights on Mondays, which have been really popular, especially while it's been cold out. At 16th Street, we were doing pasta night. Like that was Chef Tracy's thing.
Okay.
Downtown, we were doing oyster specials. So it's kind of like up to their own restaurant.
Oh, that's awesome.
Which is kind of gives everyone a reason to go to each location.
Yeah.
Like it's not the same menu at every place, which is cool.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely creating an aesthetic, right?
Yes.
So I told my wife that I would be interviewing you today, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I just went to gallery." She said the food is amazing. So
awesome.
I don't know if she has some of the CBD or if that was, but she said she absolutely loved the food. So I was definitely excited to come in here. So
That's amazing.
Side note,
Thank you.
His wife and my wife are sisters, so they go to the gallery bar all the
so
time
great.
together. And
So the 2 and the 3-year-old,
Thank you.
they're cousins. So yeah,
Oh
I
my
guess we
gosh.
forgot to mention that.
Oh my gosh, we just get our mess of toddlers together and see what.
That's right.
Speaking of aesthetic, I wanted to get a little more insight on that. Aesthetically, everything looks good. It looks very contemporary. It looks well thought out. Is there an intention behind every meal or every item, or something similar between everything you put on the item or on the menu? I'm sorry.
We've gone everywhere across the board, from taco night to ramen night to, everything I think is classic French inspiration. But we have so many different backgrounds in our kitchen that we like. I want somebody to cook what they're the best at. If we're gonna make something, it's gonna be the best of that.
Yeah.
So I would rather go down that than jam a menu down their throats and say, this is what you're gonna do.
Yeah.
And I think to stay relevant, I think to put the best food out there, there's a couple more reasons. I think that's kind of why we do it that way.
Yeah. So I'm actually glad we're diving into this. So let's speak to the journey of Gallery, right? So when did you all open your first location?
So I was working at a culinary college, and the writing was kind of on the wall that it was going to close. And I noticed that there was a hole in the market. There were a couple of great brunch places, don't get me wrong, but there weren't a ton. And there was really there were a couple of high-end pastry places, but they were all pretty small. So I saw a hole in the market, and I decided to sell my house and go all in.
Risk
Let's
taker.
you can't just gloss over that. Okay. So
Yeah.
because you're married, right? So was that like a?
I was not married at the time.
Okay,
Otherwise, we probably, he would have been like,
Not
yours
married.
lost your
Well,
mind.
I'm just saying, how do I convince my
I'm
wife?
married
to
now,
do
but
the
yeah.
same?
Oh no, he married into this. So, I, telling my family that I was doing this, they were like, "You're out of your mind." My dad's
Yeah.
a lawyer. Like, this was not in the wheelhouse. But I got sick of working for other people, and I saw a pretty big opportunity. My house was at 16th in Alabama at the time, or 17th in Alabama, and that neighborhood just went insane.
Right.
So I took the money from that, and I opened up 54th Street
Okay.
with my then business partner, and he was a chef, so he was doing some of the pastry things. We decided brunch needed to happen on the weekends, and it just kind of went crazy from there.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
When you explain that, it makes me think of the risk or the fears that people have to face when going
Yeah.
into something.
Yeah.
And for you to sell your home and then end up here now, I'm sure you envisioned where you want to be, but I'm sure if I could guess, you didn't envision it being like
No,
this.
no.
And so it's just very inspiring
Thank
to
you.
see, someone go in on a risk like that and then
Well, and it's like nice to hear that, affirmation back as well, because it is a daily grind. Like, this is a hard industry, especially as a woman in this industry. And especially, I'm not a chef. So, people question my abilities to do some of these things too, which I'm gladly.
So how do you fight through that? Either because sometimes it's people that love you that they
Yes.
may not be trying to discourage you. They may think telling you not to do something
Yeah.
is what's best for you.
Yes.
So how did you fight through that, or some advice for some viewers on kind of how to be comfortable going through something like that?
Failure was not an option, especially, that kind of stuff for me, it like drives me. I feel like the more people that like think I can't do it or are warning me against it, I'm like, well, watch me. I'm going to do it. But that's not the case for a lot of people I know. But I think just, if you know that you can go to sleep at night knowing that you worked your hardest, then, that's how I sleep at night. Because I get up and I do it again.
You heard it. You heard it from her mouth.
So you talked about how tough the industry is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but between the start of COVID and now,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of ground gained.
Yeah.
So where do you see the brand? Actually, let's talk about the rebranding first.
Okay, yeah.
Before I go into the
Yes.
future, right? So you all went through a rebranding.
Yes.
So at one point it was Gallery Pastry Bar, and now it's Gallery Bistro and Bar.
Yes.
Talk to us about that transition and why you felt it was important at this moment to make that transition.
Absolutely. So, Open Gallery Pastry Bar, it was supposed to open in March of 2020, and we all know what happened then. And I was already so far into it at that point, there was no pulling out
yeah.
unless I closed the business altogether. So when COVID happened, our landlord worked with us. We got it pushed out to an opening in July. And downtown died. It just completely died. I think we had a strong opening, but being called Gallery Pastry Bar, people who don't know our brand, they think that we're a cafe. And we just, knowing that everyone is coming in town for All-Star, we don't have a ton of national brand awareness. So people looking, they're using their phones to find where they're going to eat.
Instagrams.
Yes. So we decided, since we do have dinner, we have breakfast, we have lunch, we have more than pastries now, and we have a full bar program, which is excellent. We decided to do a rebrand and call ourselves Gallery Bistro and Bar. And what's nice is we really didn't have to change a whole lot strategically with our tangible items. Because it's still Gallery Bar.
Yeah.
Logo gets to stay the same.
Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
So yeah.
So then when it comes to the rebranding, the marketing, the awareness, the big thing right now in a lot of cities is having those, those food vloggers, the people that go on the internet, the TikToks, the Instagrams, and they try the food. And I know I found a lot of food places like that. Do you find value in having those people come into your business?
Absolutely. We've got some great relationships with some influencers in Indy, and they've given us a lot of love. We try to repost them as much as possible too, as much as we can reciprocate. But I mean, it is what the industry is right now. If you want to grow in this industry, if you and some people don't, which is totally fine. But if you do want to grow your brand and try to create an awareness, if you want people in here all the time, then you have to be on your social media game.
Okay, so let's talk about your favorite items on the menu, right? So when those influencers come in,
Yes.
do they just pick an item from the menu, or do you, offer, right, the best of the best item?
Like, what looks good today?
Guaranteeing that 5-star,
The one where you put
This is typically the menu we'll send out to them, just because there are a lot of our like originals and favorites. They've been featured, and that, like, this one, for example, has gotten some national attention. But I think we let them order too. We usually
Yeah.
like comp their
Yeah.
meal.
No, yeah.
Did you want to try some, Armani?
Yeah, I
Before it-
mean,
before
I
it
think it's
cools off.
appropriate, right, to try it. I think I'll start here.
Oh yeah, you can just pick those babies up.
I guess
me-
let me
do you
get
want me
in
to-
there some. Let me get in. I think I want to. Okay, so just each at a time. Okay.
So it's like it's fried croissant dough, and then it's like a artichoke
When I
dip.
first seen this, the first thing that came into my mind was if maybe there was if it was sweet, and then when you mentioned you had a sweet version.
Yeah.
Then when you mentioned you had a sweet version, that kind of made me excited. So
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
can't wait to try this. And
So
then
there was this place I used to go to growing up at the lake, and they had like fried pizza dough, basically was what it was, and they had like a cheese sauce. So that's kind of the elevated version of this.
So no kidding. 1 to 5. This is a 5 out of 5. You know, the softness, the aftertaste. I mean, I'm not a food critic or a food influencer, but I love
But you
food.
know it tastes good.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I love food, and I love brunch food. So this is amazing.
Thank you.
this is I don't mean to sound like unintelligent, but this is just like gourmet. Is this a form of garlic bread? in a sense?
Basically.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say that. You know, garlic bread sounds like Walmart freezer.
See,
you
that's
know,
all
and
right.
there's
That's
no
all
way
right.
I'm
There's
gonna
no
let
shame.
it
That's
today.
not gonna offend
But
me.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
You're not gonna offend me at all.
So, you know, you talked about, you know, the power of social media, the personal touches with the food. You talked about the elevation of the brand since it started in 2020. You know, I know the big thing in the restaurant industry and in the food industry is that Michelin star.
Yeah.
Is there goals and aspirations for receiving a Michelin star?
You know, I think if that's something that happens as a result of our hard work, great, pinch me. I think that, you know, to be considered for some of those things, you have to have a lot of investment money and things like that. And
Yeah.
it's just me.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, while I think it would be really cool, I think that just making sure that we're putting our best foot forward and that we can put out the best dishes. Like, I know that this is some of the best food in Indy. So, and I don't want to just, you know, obviously cater to Indy. But when people come in town, they are telling us that, you know, these are some of the best meals that they've had.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
you know, that kind of feedback too is great.
So I don't think we captured it at the beginning, but are you born and raised in Indy?
No, I'm from Fort Wayne originally.
Okay, okay.
I escaped. No, I love Fort Wayne. No, Fort Wayne's great now.
Yeah,
They've done a lot of glowing up.
yeah. That is the appropriate word,
Yeah.
actually.
I think I've been to Fort Wayne once. I picked up a pet some years ago from Fort Wayne.
Fort Wayne?
But yeah, I haven't been there to experience it yet.
Yeah.
That's a crazy description for going to a city.
Yeah,
I've
to
only
pick
been
up a
to a
pet.
city to just pick up something. That's
An
literally-
animal. Not even just something.
Right.
Well, we're glad you're here in Indy with us.
Thank
'Cause
you.
we wouldn't
I'm
be able
glad
to have
be
this
here.
interview if all of them were in Fort Wayne.
That is true. So, as far as, you know, you mentioned you don't just want to cater to Indy. You know, right now I'm just dabbling really into, you know, your goals and aspirations.
Yeah.
Is there thoughts of branching out to a different city?
Absolutely.
Or, you know, what do you envision as being the next city?
So, as far as opening restaurants in other cities, if somebody approached us, of course, you know, we would entertain that conversation. But right now, I'm kind of segueing into CBD infused pastries, THCA, which is the legal Indiana THC pastries, and then shipping those things.
Okay.
I'm also working with a marijuana farm in Michigan.
Okay.
So we'll start infusing some of our pastries to be able to get into dispensaries up there as well. So as far as national growth, we're kind of looking at that. And that company is called Flower Bakehouse.
Okay.
But we've also done macaroon subscriptions in the past where we ship them nationally. And we're looking into those kind of products and ramping those kinds of things up too.
So you would say that you're an advocate for, CBD, THC products and how they can help
Oh, absolutely.
Marijuana.
I was like,
I'm
weed?
Weed. It's just.
I mean, he was watering it down, you know.
Yeah, look.
Just rip the band.
Lead into it a little bit. Told you I lived in
That was
Arizona
funny.
for a couple years.
That was funny.
So how has that been in Indiana, where it's not legalized recreationally or medically?
Yeah.
Those rules or those conversations or being able to incorporate that type of lifestyle and culture into somewhere like here.
It's definitely sometimes it's a hard sell to people who have never ingested it before or partaken, I should say. CBD, though, I think people are finally getting an awareness of the medical benefits from it. I think that we're becoming a little bit more woke in Indiana. And I think Indiana should probably see how much money we're losing to people going to all of the border states, just like not politics aside, but it's a big tax generator. So I think it's kind of crazy that we have not brought it in. There's also a ton of research, and I have my master's in health science, so I did research a lot of this, and it is medically, I mean, it helps people. It's like we would rather jam a painkiller down somebody's throat than give them something that grew out of the ground. So it's a little crazy to me. But politics, like I said, aside, it's something that from a legal standpoint, it is regulated somewhat in Indiana through Purdue, actually, of all places. And you can do CBD products, and there are strains of THC that are legal if they're under a certain percentage. So those are the items that we have.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. That kind of helps me transition into the idea of all the different people that are coming in town for All-Star.
That was, yeah.
You know,
they
there's
gotta
people
have somewhere
from
to go.
different cultures, a lot of people that are used to the lifestyle, the
Used
medical
to the
lifestyle,
weed.
you know. Yeah.
Being able to just go and buy it legally,
And so to be able to come here and when they come eat, to see how that's being implemented in here, and this being, if they come here and eat, being able, that being one of their first experiences of Indiana, that can give a lot of good insight or send people home with good, I don't know, good feedback about Indiana and implementation and future growth and things like that.
It shouldn't be easier to get prescription drugs than it is to get marijuana. It just shouldn't. I understand children should not be getting it, but you know, we're prescribing kids with what?
Yeah, you go to some parts in the country and they have billboards that kids drive by every day, and there's buds on the billboards. And so you start, whenever you're able to get outside of here, you start to see how, some things that are legal. Your mind just starts to open up about what's okay, what's not okay.
And it's absolutely like that in Michigan, right, and Detroit. So I lived in Detroit for 2 years, and they have CBD shops on every corner, right? And they have billboards everywhere, because they advocated for it a lot. And whether it's, you know, for monetary gain or actual health gain, you know, it's being pushed a lot in Michigan. So, you know, when you said that you source from Michigan, that made all the sense in the world. So as far as All-Star Weekend, so I feel like this is one we're itching to get to.
Oh yeah, because All-Star is going to be really fun.
So, you know, I'll start with the question, and then we can just go wherever you want from there. So, initial thoughts when you heard All-Star was coming to Indianapolis, and you knew you had a location
across the
right
street.
Across the street. Initial thoughts.
Initial thoughts were, okay, well, you know, I went through all that COVID shit for something.
Right at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, truly. I really hope that it gives Indy and downtown as a whole is just down. Like, it's just down. Like, there have been, I don't even know how many restaurant closings they've announced this week alone. So I hope that, you know, I know Carmel has all the places now and Fisher's have all the places now, but I'm sorry, but bring back business to downtown. And like, so I really hope that that gives a spotlight for a lot of, not just us, but for everyone, first of all. So we're just really, really excited, like really excited. The NBA rented out the hotel we're attached to as well. So that's really
players
cool.
And stuff will be coming through.
So is there a certain influencer you're hoping comes through the restaurant? So I know a big one coming in town that made the news was Keith Lee.
Yes.
Is that?
I mean, of course, that would be so cool.
Okay.
That would be awesome. My chef was like sweating. He was like, "Oh my gosh." He's like, "Is he gonna be here?" And I was like, "I don't know. He might be." Okay. But I know he's got a list of restaurants he's hitting up, and So it would be really cool though if
To
he.
be so monotoned and chill, he just has
Yeah.
he has this buzz going on
Yeah.
that just driving everybody crazy.
Yeah.
huh?
It's good for
I mean, the
him.
fact that you can announce you're going to an event and it's captured on the news alone is crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's real influence.
Yes.
And it started from TikTok. So that's,
It's wild.
yeah.
So how does the gallery plan on being involved in All Star? Are there any events you're going to be a part of? Will you be opening your space for any sort of events or anything like that?
So we have a private event we're doing after there's a celebrity basketball game at Hinkle Fieldhouse. It's actually on Valentine's Day, the Wednesday before All Star. So we are going to be having an after party here. So I know that there's a couple of former athletes and celebrities that are going to be coming here for a private event. So kind of excited to see who comes for that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you never know how that's going to go. And then we'll have a DJ downtown Friday, Saturday, pretty much all day, and Sunday because the game's Sunday. And then we partnered with Stretch Thally and the D Money podcast to do a brunch, like a ticketed brunch event from 4 to 8 leading up to the All-Star game.
Awesome.
Getting involved
Yeah.
in there. Yeah.
And we have an after party for that as well.
Yep.
So after the game, literally walk across the street and we're going to still be partying. So
Yeah, so whoever's watching, you see, she's getting involved in All Star Weekend with her business. You see, we're having interviews. We'll be getting involved in All Star Weekend. So this is a good opportunity for everybody. If you're involved in a business or you're creative or just anything, get out there, get involved. It'll be a lot going on.
and
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point, you know, she mentioned the All-Star game. That's on that Wednesday. So we'll be at the All-Star game. Mentioned the after party. So
Yeah.
we plan on being here for the after party as well. And honestly, like you said, right, for any creative, right, or anybody that has any entrepreneurial goals, this is the weekend to do it, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's really the second biggest weekend we've had in the city outside of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And they built an entire hotel for the Super Bowl.
yeah, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I mean, they built
It's-
the whole JW Marriott for the Super Bowl for the Patriots to stay there, and then for the for All-Star basketball, right? They built the whole pavilion just for All-Star weekend. So
Yeah.
it's a huge deal in the city. So what does, you know, looking beyond All-Star weekend, what does the aftermath look like for you, right? So let's say Keith Lee shows up, he does
Yeah.
one of those infamous interviews or, you know, reviews. And there's a huge line outside the door. What does the aftermath
great.
look like for you?
It'd be great, especially if it was downtown. No, we're hiring right now, still hiring people on because we just don't know what to expect. Like we just don't know what to expect. You know, I remember being down here. I wasn't a business owner at the time, but I remember being down here for Super Bowl and just like lines of people just trying to get into B-dubs.
Yep,
Like
yep.
paying cover to go to B-dubs.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
so,
That's right.
you know, you don't want to like gyp people and be like, okay, you have to pay this much to get in, but also you don't want people just sitting there camping out because we are across the street. So we're talking to a lot of the businesses around us, Prime 47, Pier 48, and just kind of seeing what everyone else is doing to get on the same page. But we're definitely staffing up right now. So if you want to bartend, find
This is
me.
it. Yeah, this is it. This is your opportunity. You got to
This
get your
is
feet
your
wet.
opportunity to come and bartend All-Star Game.
So, you know, you mentioned earlier that it's just you, right? So how does one manage all of this, right? So we've mentioned that you're married and you have kids. How does one manage all of these competing priorities?
Just, you know, caffeine, because I can't drink right now. No, I have an excellent team. I have a really good team of people that I trust. You know, my husband has nothing to do with this industry, which is a blessing for us. But he's very helpful. You know, something breaks, he comes and fixes it. If he's got to go run something from this store to that store, he's doing it. You know, now, you know, when I opened this, my parents were like, what in the absolute hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Now they're like, how can we help? And I've got
That's a blessing. That is a blessing.
It really is. And they mean it, you know. And our staff here, they believe in the brand. They know what we're trying to put out. We all try to treat each other with as much respect as we can. And I think that, like Michaela's been here since she was a server. So she just had 7 years in the beginning of the month.
Shout out
and
to
now
Michaela.
Hey, Michaela.
she's our marketing director now. And I think, we've gone through lots of swings of changes and seasons of changes, and we've had employees come and go. And recently a lot of employees have come back that were with us a couple of years ago. And it just feels really good to have a really strong team of people who care that much.
So what does the typical day look like, right? So, for everybody that, I think social media does a great job of making things look easy.
Oh, yeah.
So what does the typical day for you look like?
Yeah. That's the part where people, they don't get it.
Yeah.
They do not get it. I usually wake up at like 5:30. I start checking my emails then because my kids get up at 8. I have a 2 and a 3-year-old, almost 2. And I try to get all my emails, text messages. It's very hard to get me on the phone because I'm working that early, or I have screaming kids in the background.
Yeah.
My sitter usually comes over around 9 or 10, and then I come into one of the locations. And then I am between, depending on the day, I'm in, like today, I've been in every single location today. It's just nonstop and being available and being communicative to people. Because I just feel like you can't truly efficiently run a business if you're not available to people.
Yeah.
I mean, there's business owners that do it, and they probably make more money than I do, but
No, I mean.
but hey, I'd rather be involved.
Yeah.
So what I've noticed is that you've been super, super sweet.
Yeah.
Everything from opening this up to allowing us to do the interview. And I would like to know, how do you stay in that space from people not believing it would be what it is to it becoming something, and then people wanting to lend a helping hand, and then balancing your day-to-days? How do you stay in such a happy spirit, or or do you have advice on how that works for you?
Oh, like how do I keep it together? Is that
Correct.
How do you stay sane?
Sane,
my poor husband?
Nice,
I think that I take a lot of it with a grain of salt and humor, because if I don't, then I would go absolutely. I would lose my mind. And when you work with people that you actually like, too, that helps a lot. But I think that I have to stop and give myself some perspective sometimes when I want to, be like, man, it was so hard. It was so hard. The heat broke here on a negative 10-degree day, and the AC went out all summer downtown. Like, it is a constant onslaught of things. But when you're doing it with people that you like, when you believe in what you're doing, it makes it a little bit easier. And also, like, I get to come and, like, stuff is beautiful, and I'm talking to you guys today. I'm not, like, sitting at a desk typing on my computer all day. So
Which was your main goal. You mentioned you didn't want to work for anybody anymore.
Yeah.
So I bet it sounds like that alone
some of that too
makes you happy.
Yeah. And my kids, man, they're great. So you go home to that.
I'm glad you gave us a thorough answer on staying sane. I thought you were going to lead with the CBD or the THC or the weed,
Again.
Disclaimer, pre-pregnancy.
Very excited, to have another child, a third toddler.
Yeah, so congrats to that. We haven't mentioned that during the interview, but she is with child.
Yes.
Pregnant again. So congrats to Allison.
Thank you.
And no CBD has been taken during this episode. No, so,
But as soon as that baby's,
Time to party.
May 21st.
You said May 1st?
May 21st.
21st. Oh, yeah. So May 22nd, back on the CBD.
Yeah.
So, Rory and I, we were discussing before we started recording the aesthetic and the vibe in here. So let's talk about that, right? So when it comes to you seeing a blank canvas, how did you determine to put a tree here? Right? How did you determine
the drugs help. No, I'm just joking. I don't do that.
There's a common theme here, guys. There's a common theme. Get with it or get
Marijuana.
lost.
When I say drugs, I mean marijuana products. Don't need that out there,
No
God.
DMT?
No, no crazy psychedelics or anything like that. No pills. Yeah. I design everything from the couch we're sitting on to this pillow I got at TJ Maxx. That's from Amazon. That cup's from Goodwill. Like, I just see
Nice.
shit and I accumulate it, which drives my husband crazy. But when I know a store is coming, like I said, I don't have an investor, so I got to get creative when it comes to a lot of the fundraising for this stuff. Michaela and I built that booth around the tree. Our hands,
Shout out to Michaela
we
again.
couldn't like, we had like claws because our hands hurt so bad after upholstering it. But what I typically do is I come in and I walk through the space, and I know what my aesthetic is. I know what I like. In this space, for example, there was a huge beam in the center, and then it had all of these, like, the wood beams that you can see coming off of it, and I thought it would be really cool to do a tree as a focal point.
Yep.
But I wanted it to be like a white plaster tree and do all different shades of white, kind of monochromatic look. And then we wanted to go with like the glass and stone look as well, to kind of try to warm up the space from all of the different colors of whites, because that can be so sterile
Yeah.
too. I know, like, white, like painting everything white is like what everyone does with their houses, but it makes it like not cozy and sterile. So giving some like Art Deco pops, that like pukey green on the wall. I love it. I call it chartreuse, but the guy that was painting it was like, this is like baby poop, and I was
Yeah.
like, thank you.
Doodoo green.
There we go. An
Doodoo
extremely
green.
Thank you.
relatable
It's called
I like it,
chartreuse.
chartreuse, aka baby.
Olive
I
green.
But it's a very kind of like 70s Art Deco kind of look.
Yeah, I was gonna say it. Like when you look around, for the people that can't see it, there's basically no recessed lighting, right? Like the typical, prototypical lighting structure in here. Everything is very particular. I mean, even
Yeah.
these lighting, bulbs, spheres that above us. I mean,
Yeah.
you don't usually see stuff like
No,
that.
I definitely, and it takes me a really long time to curate a lot of it. Most of the light fixtures are from Etsy, and I just
We love
find
Etsy in
local.
my house,
Oh,
too.
it's so good. You find local makers, and they're trying to get their brands off the ground. So it's a little bit more cost effective, especially if you negotiate. Like, I'll post this, and I'll like give you guys credit, and I'll give you all the pictures for it. Like those lights over the bar, those were from a maker, in the Ukraine. These are from China. The ones on the back wall are from Italy. And that guy is just like a collector of antique glass. And so I was a little worried that they wouldn't work when we got them, but
Yeah.
they're so cool. And then all of these came from Italy too. And they're just like, they're kind of like knockoff expensive brands that a lot of these companies will make.
That's okay.
Hey, no one knows when
You
it's
know,
up there.
Exactly.
See, but that's
If you didn't say
beautiful. It makes
nobody
it
would know.
No.
it makes it way more relatable for people that are trying
It's
to
totally
grow
attainable.
Correct. They may see it and think that they need to buy the most expensive product that they see on Home Depot to
No.
match
Exactly.
up.
No, you don't have to go to those. I'm not knocking those places, but there are just too many cool local places making things
Yep.
that you can find
And
stuff.
it goes back to the social media piece, right? Everybody feeling like they need the most expensive things. And like you said, right, there's antique stuff, there's local, people that can curate these items
Yeah.
for a fraction of the cost.
It's just when you think of the kitchen, when you think of renovations, when you think of that, that's already so costly
Yeah.
to get you in the doorway.
Yep.
What do you want to drop another $1 million on making it
and
look
people
good?
Right.
do. I mean, people do, and that's a lot of. I've spoken with a lot of local brands, like restaurants that are opening, and they'll send me like their kitchen list, or they'll send me their design list, and I'm like, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't need this, you don't. You can get that at IKEA, like you can get that on Wayfair. There's some big box brands too that just you don't have to spend $1,000 on a chair.
Now,
No,
are
go
there guidelines that your brand follows that will be followed or adhered to at any location? I've noticed some wood. I've noticed white is incorporated at all the locations. Are there particular things that you have to have within your brand, or does that vary within the space or
I
the
think it just
environment?
varies within the space.
Okay.
So this space was already built out for another restaurant, so it was more so giving it a facelift. The other two locations, they were complete, like it was a concrete box, so it was starting from nothing, and so we really had to give those identities and warm them up. The bistro is more of like the greens and golds, and I feel like more like they've got like the gold chandeliers, and for downtown in that area, I think that's kind of makes a little bit more sense. Here we're more in the neighborhood, and you have to make it a little bit more cozy. And, I don't want to say not as high end looking, but something that you feel comfortable coming to for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right, right. So when it comes to the locations, I'm sure they were intentional, but I would just love to hear your thought process on, picking downtown, picking, essentially Broad Ripple, right?
Yeah.
Were these very intentional spots where when you were starting with your very first location, you said, I need to be in these specific pocket neighborhoods?
I think it just happened as spaces became available. I was working at the Chef's Academy when I opened 54th Street, which was the original location for here. And our executive chef there, Tony Hanslitz, had a pasta shop across the street called Nicole Taylor Pasta Shop. And it's owned by somebody else now. He's retired. But when I was in his shop, he's the one who taught me so much. He was like, don't bring on investors. Don't buy new equipment. Rent one of these tiny little warehouses. And I literally signed a lease. It was $1,900 a month in a warehouse where they were making screen doors, and turned it into a kitchen. And we didn't have the money to put a hood in, so we cooked everything on butane burners, like campfire burners. We had like 8 of them lined up.
Yeah.
And it was a glass. You could like sit at the glass and watch. The Board of Health hated us. And we would make all of this is pretty much the same food that you see in front of you. So when this space came available and it already had a hood and it already had the kitchen and everything, we're like, oh, okay, yeah, like,
Right.
obviously. So I think it was a lot of stuff like that when we found our spaces.
I mean, the evolution is crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know if I'm kind of like having
It's
like a moment over here.
I know we're time limited. There's 1,000
there's
things.
a lot to unpack
It's
there.
like I'm trying to stay tuned in because if we weren't on camera and didn't have a time limit, I would ask you too many questions.
Yes, I guess the last question I'll have, and then and I'm sure you'll have another one, but what words of encouragement do you have for entrepreneurs, right? So if there was one piece of advice you could give somebody where they're facing the same types of, resistance and scrutiny, right? Whether it's from parents, colleagues, whoever.
Yeah.
What piece of advice would you have for those people?
I feel like you have to believe in it for yourself before you can sell anything to somebody else. So know what you're doing, know why you're doing it, know your mission, and do it the best way that you could possibly do it. Because if you're not doing any of those things, then why do you expect anyone else to believe in you?
And I'll just lead off of that. Do you have any tips on finding out who you really are, or what your purpose really is, or maybe what you did to get in a space to learn that?
Well, it's funny because I've done sales jobs. My undergrad is in event management. My master's is in health science because I was going to go into the medical field. So I think working in admissions in a college, even before I got to the Chef's Academy, showed me that I love to help people. I love to show people their options for life, essentially, and talking about different programs. And I used to then it was occupational therapy and physical therapy programs, and then within my collegiate network that I was working for, the Chef's Academy opening happened. I wanted to move to Indianapolis, so I took that job, moved down here, and I was like, I've worked in restaurants really my whole life. I was great at marketing. I was great at events. And I felt like there was a product that I could put out in Indianapolis that really would excite people. So.
And it has.
Thanks.
You should have seen my wife's face when I told her I was doing this. I mean, she literally lit up. The day I told her, I think it was like last week, her and her friends ended up going to one of your locations.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Well,
she
thank
was
you.
that excited.
Thank you.
Yep.
You know, we even say, you know, we're
We'll
going to
have
do
to
the
take some of
interview.
this stuff home
She
for
said,
her.
well, how about we go there to eat lunch?
Oh, I
said,
love that.
that's crazy, right? So that type of excitement you've curated in the city,
I'm glad to
and I
hear
think
that.
that's amazing. So, you know, we can't wait to see the, you know, wherever growth it is, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's hopefully still in Indianapolis and creating the vibes, if you decide to venture out to other, you know, cities and opportunities like we talked about, you know, we're just excited to see the ride. So, and thank you for including us in this moment.
Gosh, yeah. Thank
especially
you.
the timeliness of the moment. So we're
Yes.
definitely,
Yeah.
you know, appreciative for sure.
Thank you guys. This has been great.
Thank you. Thank you. This was amazing. We came and sat down. The restaurant was going. People sitting around eating. This might
chilling
be
down
one of
now.
the best
Cameras were
things
out.
I've done in my life. This has been fun.
So before we go, we cannot forget. So tell people the socials, where to find
Yes.
you, where to keep up with you. Tell them the brand of, you know, all the businesses so they can make sure that they, you know, stay in touch and tapped in.
Yeah, so gallerypastry.com for any reservations, events, going-ons, menus, all of that kind of stuff. It's broken down by location there. On social media, you can find us at Gallery Pastry Shop on Instagram, Gallery Bistro and Bar, Bistro Bar. Take out the end. Gallery Bistro
Shout
Bar.
out to Michaela.
Yeah, it's like, just change that one. And then Gallery Pastry 16th for 16th happenings. Flower Bakehouse, flower.bakehouse
Okay.
for our infused company, and pop-ups. And we do pop-ups every Saturday at 16th right now
Awesome. Awesome.
for infused pastries. But yeah,
Well, there you have it. Make sure y'all tap into another episode of the Ice Cream Social. Follow us on all platforms, Ice Cream Social Podcast. Make sure you book reservations. Keep her busy up until
Please.
May 21st. And then, you know, we'll go from there. But with
hopefully
that being,
we'll have enough people trained by then.
hopefully. But with that being said, we'll catch you on another episode of the Ice Cream Social. Peace.
Thanks, Allison.
Yes, thanks guys.
Here we go.
Cream, yeah. Cream, yeah. Ice cream social.